You know, Sarpy County is one of the fastest growing areas inside the entire state of Nebraska. So we thought it might be wise for us to take a look at Sarpy County, what's really driving their growth down there. My name is Lynn Hinderrocker. Thanks for joining me here on WowBiz Weekly and, of course, on WowBizTV.com. By the way, before we get into the next interview here, and you're going to love this, you want to take a look around on WowBizTV.com. There are a lot of very helpful videos that will help you make an informed purchasing decision. There's all kinds of thought leaders right here in Douglas County and in Sarpy County, and we certainly want to elevate and showcase the thought leadership and the experts that are all around us that need to be showcased here on video and on the web. So that's what we're doing. Thanks for joining us here in our media revolution. All right, now on to our next guest, or our first guest today. As I mentioned, Sarpy County is growing explosively. They just added a bunch of new businesses down there. We'll talk about that shortly. And leading the charge, of course, as she should be, is the lady that runs the Chamber of Commerce down there in Sarpy County. As you know, about this time every year, everybody comes up with their plan for the future. So I'm pleased to introduce you to the lady that runs the Sarpy County Chamber of Commerce. She's got her plan, she's got her achievements, she's got her strategy. She's going to share them exclusively right now with us. Please welcome, with the Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Wendy Ritchie, everybody, right now. Very good.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
That's a tall order for me today.
No, it's
My
not.
goodness.
I think you're up to it. You know, everybody comes to WowBiz kind of, we raise the bar just a little bit.
Yes.
For just a couple moments.
Okay, I can handle it.
All right, outstanding. Well, congratulations, first of all, on doing a great job. All right?
Thank you.
I know
Thank
your
you.
things
Had a
are
great
coming
year.
along, and you've got committees and groups and people and new members.
Yes.
How many members do you have, by the way?
We got about 670, which is about up 20-30% over last year. So we've done
Outstanding.
extremely well. Yes,
About a
thank you.
30% growth right now in the membership roster. Let me tell you, chambers of commerce, like all nonprofit groups, have difficulty during recessionary periods. They lose members, all right? The rosters don't grow typically, so that's really...
It's good, and we've got about an 80% retention rate, which is awfully good. So
yes,
people are
that's
staying.
Outstanding performance, so good for you. Now, let's talk a little bit about your plan. We've been talking before. We had Heather Legg on our earlier show, talking about innovative approaches towards strategy and innovation. Tell me, what's going on with Sarpy? What are you trying to accomplish as we go into 2013? Give me the 3 or 4 kind of top goals.
3 or 4 top goals.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Last year, we always asked our memberships, you know, what can the Chamber do for you to make your 2012 your best year yet?
Yes.
And we asked that question this year, too. But our other probing question is, how do you want to see Sarpy County shaped? Because we're at a bit of a crossroads right now as far as our growth is just expanding exponentially. And so how do we make that work the right way?
Yeah, because otherwise it could be all over the board.
It could be all over the board, and we're unique that we have 5 municipalities plus the county at large.
Yes.
And so each of those municipalities are competitive with each other.
Yeah, they have their own agendas.
They do. And so how do you bring us all together, plus the community at large, to really shape Sarpy County for future?
Do you think President Obama could even bring them together? I'm just curious.
You know,
if you think that could even happen.
they have brought
it's not that divisive, is it?
They have brought themselves together, actually. Yes.
Okay.
The 5 mayors of the cities have a wonderful working relationship with each other, as well as the
Good.
county. And even though they're competitive, you know, both, you know, everybody wants Chick-fil-A in their city. They know that if, you know, what's good for Papillion is also good for Gretna, and what's good for Springfield is good for La Vista, and what's good for Bellevue is good for the
So
county.
they're thinking holistically.
They are thinking holistically. If it can't happen in Bellevue, then if it happens in Papillion or La Vista, Gretna or Springfield, then it's good for the county. And that's one concept that I think is extremely unique about Sarpy County, is that you've got these 5 municipalities that do work together.
That is so
even
interesting.
though they're competitive.
You know, I have to share briefly with you just to augment your point. I was
Sure.
visiting with David Brown at the Omaha Chamber,
Sure.
and they're talking about entrepreneurialism. And of course, here we are in the Mastercraft building. There's a lot of entrepreneurs
Very
in this
unique
building.
businesses.
Absolutely.
Yes. I see a lot in your audience, actually.
Absolutely, and a lot of aspiring, budding entrepreneurs here in the COBA segment. But one thing that they have done, it's very interesting, is that they formed an alliance between Omaha and Des Moines and Kansas City. All right, and they all have succeeded in different ways, fostering and identifying entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Financing, mentoring, that kind of thing.
Correct.
And these 3 municipalities have agreed to work together, kind of sharing programs and ideas, similarly to what you're talking about with your five mayors down there in Sarpy County. So that's good. You've got an atmosphere of cooperation.
Collaboration's perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's that going to achieve? What would be the first time you're going to call me and say, hey, Lynn, we just achieved objective number 1? What's it going to be?
Well, that's kind of the big question for 2013, and that's the exciting part of Sarpy County. Where are we going to be in the future?
What's the right goal, huh?
What is the right goal, and how are we going to achieve this?
Yes.
We've got a lot of businesses that are very interested in the area, especially the data centers. We offer,
huge
very
business.
big. We just, you probably heard about Project Photon, which is also now out and released, has Fidelity Investments, a $200 million project. We've got 3 other data centers there, and we're kind of primed for that. It just seems to be a logical place.
Is that because the cost of real estate's a little bit lower down there? Or
utilities is
utilities.
the biggest issue, and also the infrastructure.
Okay.
We also have a very highly educated population of people, and those jobs are required to be very highly educated.
Yeah, I know that your educational scores are really high.
Very high.
The
Very
young
high
folks coming out
percentage
of
of people
Papillion
that
High
are,
School and stuff.
well, very high percentage of people that are college educated in the Sarpy County area.
I've seen that.
We hope that some of these Creighton students, I know a lot of them are probably from out of town, but we hope that they choose to stay and live, work, and play.
They'll
in
create
Sarpy
families,
County.
move to the suburbs. They'll be in La
love to
Vista
have
in a
them.
few years, or
We'd love to
Papillion
have
or
them.
whatever. All right, maybe one more time as we kind of wrap up here, because this is such it's a big story.
Yes.
All right, but what would be a few of the goals that people are bandying around? Let's say, for instance, we're inside your management committee, your executive directors. What do they want to achieve? They want to restore 84th Street. They want to make things happen around Southport, out by the interstate. Obviously, is going with Cabela's and the baseball team. What are people even thinking about?
Well, the 370 corridor still connects Sarpy County pretty much from one end to the next.
That's the common denominator, right?
In the next few decades, you're going to see a Platteview Road development that's going to connect from the Highway 34 bridge, which is Iowa, and connect it all the way through Platteview Road down to I-80.
Okay.
And that will be probably our next major intersection. But right now, I think Highway 370 is still our predominant connection through
Good.
Sarpy County.
Good,
and
good.
so that's where you'll see most of the development. You're talking about Warner Park. We've already got some developments that are coming in there already.
There's
So
an ecosystem there.
There's an ecosystem there and a beautiful place to locate.
Great,
So,
great.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
And congratulations down there on Sarpy County.
Thank
We're going
you,
to
I
talk to one of
appreciate
your
it.
associates here very shortly.
Good.
Please say thank you to Wendy Ritchie from the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Great to see you. We'll be right back with Wild Biz Weekly. Thanks for joining us. Leadership is at a transitional point all around the country, particularly here in the Omaha area, and particularly in Sarpy County, which is exploding. This is a time down there where the real leaders in that part of our metroplex are emerging with a distinctive point of view, expertise, leadership, and the ability to cooperate and collaborate. Now, that's why my second guest today on Wild Biz Weekly is a special guest. Kathy Shaw is a CPA. She's a tax expert, a consultant, but most importantly, she was part of the leadership class that, of course, every year is developed down there at the Sarpy County Chamber of Commerce. We're going to talk about leadership, and it's such an apt subject right now since we have so many young students from Creighton University's business school right here. Please welcome from Sarpy County, Kathy Shaw, ladies and gentlemen, right here on Wild Biz Weekly. Thanks for joining me. Please have a seat. What a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I know we contacted you kind of at the last minute, through Wendy, so it's great that you found your way here. Thank you so much.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Now, you tell us a little bit about your operation. What do you do down in Sarpy County? You've got your own agency or your own?
I have my own practice.
Yes.
I'm a CPA. I've been an entrepreneur for about 20 years, so
Wow.
I enjoy it. The most important thing about what I do is what has been iterated by some of the other guests.
Yes.
It's customer service, it's personal service, it's commitment, it's passion, and I actually love what I do, and I do taxes.
Wow.
So,
I actually love what I do. I think that is the most memorable segment on our interview today, because I think there are just a lot of people that are entering the workforce that feel like, oh, I've got to do this, I got to get a job, or our savings are down, I'm 65, but I got to work again. And I love to see the passion and the appreciation for that. Tell me what you learned about leadership that you didn't know before you were part of the leadership class down there at the Sarpy County Chamber. I know you're a graduate of the class. What remains with you? What has actually affected the way you run your business and interact with people?
well, actually, the class is ongoing, so the graduation is in May 2013.
So it's continuing. You're evolving.
So I'm evolving a leader. Probably one of the most important things that I learned so far in the class, since I do am working on my own.
Yes.
And several of the class members are from bigger companies around the Sarpy County area.
Yes.
It's how to be a 360-degree leader. Lead from the middle, leading from the top, leading from the sides. I found that fascinating with the concept of leadership, and I'm learning to kind of understand leading myself, leading others. It's very, very good experience.
What's the toughest part of being a 360 leader? Is it interacting with people you don't really understand, or interacting with your family, or is it the psychological piece, the trying to cultivate a feeling of leadership internally every day? Or tell us more about this.
The hard part for me, for being, first of all, a 360-degree leader, again, is I work on my own. So I have to find other outlets to lead from the middle, lead from the top, that kind of thing. And that's where I found the chamber, the Sarpy County Chamber, so valuable to my leadership development.
Yeah. Do you find, Kathy, that it's easier to think about being a leader consciously when you're bouncing off other people, or when you're surrounded by people, rather than just being by yourself? Or is it easier to get it clear in your head and it begins to fragment and dissolute when you're working with other people?
I think it's easier if you're working with other people to develop those leadership skills.
Yeah.
One of the things we've learned in class is leadership takes practice, practice, practice.
Yes.
Just like my practice, I have to practice my taxes.
Yes.
The leadership takes, continued input and continued practice.
Is the process of being a leader more the key thing, or is it a few key principles that you have to keep in your head? Or is it just the little things about how you look at somebody, or communicate a constructive criticism comment, or how do you form a group? When you get right down to the very kind of nuts and bolts of everyday life, is that where the leadership emerges and you feel like, wow, I'm really coming along? Or is it the philosophical or the principles?
Well, the leadership part to me is a lot of it is common sense. It's being committed. It's having a vision. It's the way you treat people.
Sure.
how you actually manage and lead.
Sure.
What kind of leader are you? Are you a grumpy leader, or you have that attitude every time you come in? You're gonna get contributions from your team.
Sure, absolutely. And so, what's your next step? Once you graduate, what are you going to do differently in 2013 and going into 2014, because this training has impacted your notion of yourself as an entrepreneur? How's it going to change?
For me, there's a couple of things. We're working on what we get to do is a legacy project. So we are going to be making a contribution.
Yes.
Not necessarily the total formation of the project,
right,
but we get to project what we would like to see continuing leadership in Sarpy County.
Yeah, that's very meaningful to have a legacy, right?
Yeah.
Just to think about.
It's a very important part of the whole class.
Yeah,
very important.
And I have a presentation that I give called Beyond Success to Significance, and this notion of legacy is a part of it as well. So I appreciate you bringing that. It's a very interesting thing. Adds meaning to the whole thing.
Right.
Rather than just getting what you want.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the Creighton folks here as we kind of back out of this wonderful interview? Any quick thing you'd like to say about Sarpy County? I know they've fostered and supported you as you have with them. What's your take on that? Or is the advice stay downtown Omaha as much as you can?
Well, no, actually, my experience with the Sarpy County Chamber is the business-friendly, entrepreneurial spirit. We do a lot of ribbon cuttings with new businesses.
Yes.
We see that those of us that are almost over 60 are doing, going into their businesses for themselves. They're being the entrepreneurs.
I'm seeing a lot of that too.
Yes. And that the support from the Sarpy County Chamber is just invaluable when it comes to that kind of thing.
All right. Well, that speaks well of you and Wendy and the entire team. I hope we get to meet the rest of those folks down there. Thanks for joining me on WowBiz. Kathy Shaw, ladies and gentlemen, CPA in Sarpy County. We'll be right back with Andy Greenberg coming up. Stay with us. You know, we're in a new social media era. A lot of people are changing their whole notion of how to acquire new customers because of the social media landscape. A lot of people are still in that kind of, what does it really mean? A lot of people are in denial. A lot of people are cynical or skeptical about the impact of the whole thing. Thanks for joining me here on WowBiz Weekly and WowBizTV.com. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker. It's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure to introduce you to my third guest today on our show. His name is Andy Greenberg. A lot of you know him already. He's been a veteran of WowBiz. He's been on our show a number of times. And of course, he's a speaker, talks a lot about sales, talks a lot about customer service. So we're going to hone in on this very interesting transitional point in the whole issue of sales. And we're going to focus especially on the young folks in our audience here from the Creighton School of Business. The Creighton School of Business. Are we here? Are we here? Love it. As to whether or not sales is really a career that you want to get into as we look forward into the next 10, 20 years. So please welcome my good friend, Mr. Andy Greenberg, ladies and gentlemen. Here he comes.
Lynn,
hey.
How are you?
Good, bud. Good.
Lynn, I have a challenge for you.
You have a challenge for me?
Here, buy this pen.
What's it worth?
I can't answer the question because I'm selling to you on social media, so we're not talking.
Ah, okay.
So
right.
I want you to buy this pen. That's all I want you to do.
Okay. Well, we'll get. How about we get back to that? Sure.
All right, we'll get back to it, but let's keep it as a prop. But
Go
ahead.
Let's utilize it as a conversational thread.
Yes.
All right. We could analyze the dimensions or the attributes of the pen.
Yeah, but I can't talk to you.
No, you can. You're going to hear my posting, right?
No,
Yeah, and you're going to get back and you're going to say, I really think that was a very insightful comment and description. All right.
Go ahead.
So here we go. I get a phone call from somebody here in the Omaha area, business community, guy I know, and he's almost as experienced, almost as good as you. Okay. And he says, Lynn, I am really struggling. He says, I've been a salesperson for 40 years or so. I've done well, but he says, I can't get anybody under 35 to answer my phone calls. I make cold calls. We do all these things. You know, I meet people and network and so on. I'm trying to follow up with the business cards, and I can't get an appointment. I can't get to these folks. Right. It's a problem with everybody, but the younger you get, the more difficult it becomes. Yes. And my comment to him was, well, you know, here's what you need to do. You need to start thinking yourself as a salesperson and start thinking of yourself as a publisher.
Right.
Okay? You need to start posting comments that would be relevant and educational to these people, so that you achieve some degree of reputation or credibility with them.
Right.
And you need to do that every day. LinkedIn, Facebook, all these different social media sites. And eventually you'll begin to attract them instead of you intruding on their lifestyle and pushing yourself. And he said, Lynn, I love you, but goodbye. And he hung up. He didn't like the advice at all.
Right.
So what do you think about all this? Is being a salesperson more difficult today than it used to be, or easier, you know?
Right. Both. Selling is going through a transition. One of the most important things about selling is who is your customer and what hot buttons do they have. So your particular person is probably doing something wrong. When he's leaving a message, it's probably very long and lengthy. Now, when you want a 35-year-old or under to return your phone call, keep it short, keep it to the point, but always put a little bit of intrigue in it. Leave something out so that they actually have a reason to call you back. Raise that curiosity level. Give them an opportunity to learn something that they didn't know before you called.
Now, what if they're extremely skeptical? People say, that's some guy who's trying to pitch me. I'm not going to talk to him.
Well, everybody's skeptical. They're no different than anybody else.
But isn't that level of skepticism increasing as you work with younger people, younger buyers, purchasing committee and so on?
Right.
Do you see a greater degree of resistance?
No, I don't. I actually don't. I see the same level of resistance, because if I didn't think that way, then I would never know when I leave a message for someone what their level of skepticism is. So I've always got to believe it is at the highest level. But then we have to analyze, what is skepticism? So what do you think it is? And the audience, that's something that's important to you. Your answer might be different than theirs. So we need to understand why people are skeptics. The answer is because everything that they've purchased without having someone talk to them might not have worked for them.
They have fear.
They have fear.
Yes.
Okay, what they really need is reinforcement. And the other thing is, people today don't like to be influenced.
Yes.
So the moment they hear
that's what I'm getting at right here. That's
they think there's an influence factor.
Right.
But it goes back to the definition of selling.
Yeah.
What is selling? something you probably look in your textbooks, but from your viewpoint, and you and I have been in sales, what's the definition of sales?
Well, fundamentally, it would say matching somebody's needs with your product.
Okay.
That would be
All right.
one thing.
Right.
I would say another thing is persuasion by linking your product to their view of the world rather than trying to change their
Okay.
view of the world.
All right. All right.
There's my piece
The
of
word
insight today.
persuasion is there, but try this on for size.
All right.
Selling is giving somebody new information that they've never had before.
Yes.
That allows them to make a decision to better their life or their business.
Yes.
And at the end, they're thankful that you contacted them.
Are people more receptive to new information today than they used to be?
That's absolutely correct. Because
Yes.
today we're in the new information age.
Yes.
And that's what people want. They want information that they've never had before. They don't want repetitiveness. So your person is probably giving them the repetition that they've always had.
Playing the
which
numbers.
creates
Playing the numbers.
skepticism.
That's right. That's
but if
right.
you give them new information that they've never had before,
Yes.
and all of a sudden they think they're unique because they know something somebody else doesn't,
Yeah.
you know what? They're going to return that phone call.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway right here, Andy
Yes.
Greenberg, is linking your product or the client that you're calling on, the prospect, to a trend. People
Right.
are fascinated
Right.
about how things are changing.
Exactly.
Because we all want to be relevant.
Yes.
And we're all deeply afraid of becoming
Yes.
irrelevant.
Yes.
So there's our Wow Biz piece of
Yes.
insight today.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course you
The reason
can.
why people love text messaging and they look at it because they don't want to be left out.
Yes.
They don't want to miss anything. That's why we always look at our cell phones. We don't want to miss anything. And the other thing we don't want to miss is new information.
That's right.
And that's
right.
where sales comes in. That's where that message that your person should give on that phone. Something new that they've never heard before.
Doesn't that relate back to Wow Biz Weekly right here?
That's right.
I would say that's probably, you just defined our value proposition right here at Wow Biz Weekly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Andy Greenberg, always sharing good stuff. Thanks for joining us right here. My name's Lynn Hinderocker. We'll see you next time. Thanks again.